Want to have a chat with Mikis in the dungeon? Apply at contact@keramitica.com.
Welcome, Mara, to the third episode of Dungeon Chats. Welcome.
So excited to be here. Ready.
Well, as people have requested, they'd like to know a little bit about you before we start. Okay, so can you say something about yourself?
I am a beautiful, magnetic woman, wife, friend, sister, student, and teacher. And my name is Mara. I met Mikis 10 months ago. I attended his very famous Choice OS workshop. After that, my husband attended the workshop, and we're just fascinated with the work, with the community. And I have so many questions that I jumped at the opportunity of being able to ask Mikis questions, because Mikis, about so many subjects. So here we are.
So great. You can ask any question you like. If my answer is not fully satisfactory to you, you can insist and ask more. And let's go for it.
Okay, let's do it. So the dungeon chats are all about common sense and magic, right?
Exactly.
Yes. So today I would like to dive into the magic, esoteric, mystical, existential questions with you. So, question number one, I have heard you speak about the energy world. What is your definition of the energy world?
Well, many people talk about the energy world or the spirit world, and you can view this thing from many perspectives. They all are about the same thing, but you can approach it from a kind of spiritual or philosophical sense, or you can approach it as far as physics are concerned. Yeah. So basically, to start with, our whole world is made of energy and mass, energy and matter. Matter is everything physical, like this table, and energy is like the electricity, the light, and so on and so forth. In reality, they are exactly the same thing, two forms of the same thing. So, to understand this, you have a solid, ice, an ice cube. Yes? If you give heat to the ice cube, you basically accelerate the vibration of its molecules, and it turns into water, which is a liquid. Then if you give it more heat, so it vibrates even faster, it becomes a gas, vapor, steam. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So it loosens up and it becomes more fluid. So we have solid ice, then liquid water, then vapor, that is a gas. Yes? The same thing happens with metal. You take a piece of steel that's a solid, you melt it in a foundry, it becomes a liquid, you superheat it, it becomes a vapor. Yeah? And then that happens with everything. The next stage is if you give it even more energy, it turns into light, into energy. It becomes even looser and turns into light. The famous equation by Einstein that everybody knows, equal E equal mc squared, means energy equals mass times the acceleration of the speed of light times the acceleration of the speed of light. Square means you multiply two things. To make it easier, because the acceleration of the speed of light is very close to the actual speed of light, because light accelerates very fast. It's just like a few digits somewhere difference. So let's call it energy equals mass times speed of light times speed of light. To be precise, the equation is about a specific frequency of light, which is the light that comes from the Big Bang. So it's a very specific frequency because every light has a frequency. We have infrared light, we have white light, we have yellow light, we have laser, we have all kinds of lights. According to its wavelength, it's something else. So basically, like any equation, 2 times 3 equals 6. You learned it in school. You can also say, yes, 3 equals 6 divided by 2. And you can also say 2 equals 6 divided by 3. So basically, in reality, mass is energy going too slow. And energy is mass going too fast. So they're basically parts of the same thing, as water is always water. Whether it's frozen like ice or whether it's steam, it's still water, but going at a different speed. So the energy world is nothing else than a part of the spectrum of the whole material world, just vibrating at a much higher frequency. And that's all that energy is. Now, if we look at it more broadly, when you have energy in the form of like electricity, yes, like right now, I am in front of a camera and a computer and a microphone. Whatever I say is translated by the microphone and my image into electrons, into digits. It travels across the world and comes to you in Portugal, I presume you are. Yeah?
Yes.
And then it retranslates into sound or vision on your end. Yeah? This is exactly the same way that our thoughts and emotions, they travel through our bodies, through our nervous system with electrical impulses. You get, like when you hear a sound, yeah, your ears act like microphones. They have a membrane that vibrates, sends a signal to your auditory center of your brain, and then that's translated basically into electrons, like in the computer. And that sound is filtered by many things, by your perception, your mood, all kinds of things, yes, which affects your focus, your sound perception. For example, if you smoke a joint, you're much more sensitive to sound, yeah? And then it reaches your brain. And that thought, like Mara said, hi, goes through my brain electronically, yeah? And then I decide to say hi back. And in the very same way, also emotions go through your body and your brain. If you're sad, that is transmitted through your nervous system to your whole body. Yeah. At the same time, every living being is an electrobiochemical mechanism. We metabolize things, we have a chemical reaction that produces energy. This energy is not only contained within the being, within us, but it also radiates outwards. In spiritual terms, you would call it the aura, the aura. And in scientific terms, we have electricity in our bodies is measured through encephalogram, electrocardiogram, and so on. We radiate energy. It's measured also with special photography. And you also do experiments in school. They used to give us like frog legs, and you put electricity to it, and the frog leg moves, which simulates how the brain tells the muscles to move. Yeah? So electrons, they have mass. It may be invisible, it's microscopic, it's subatomic, but they do have mass in them. It's just going so fast that, and it's minute in there. Like The little ice cube can become a big volume of vapor because all its particles are spread around, yes, or a big puddle of water. So I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, even for a 5-year-old to understand. People feel, many people feel that there is a separation between the spirit and the physical world, our bodies. But this is totally wrong. They view their energetic being as very different from their physical being. But this is by no means the case. Because if, for example, you're sick, then also your energy field changes, your thoughts change, your emotions change, and vice versa. You cannot feel erotic if you're nauseous, even if you have the most sexy man in the world in front of you, if you're like retching because you're nauseous, because you have this like smell of rotten eggs because you ate something bad, there's no way you can get wet. It's not going to happen because every part of us interacts with the other. So the energy world is simply a part of our world. The same thing applies to everything, like radio frequencies. There's long wave, short wave, all kinds of things. There's radio that takes some kind of frequencies, other radio takes other kind of frequencies. All these things coexist around us. If you have a radio that can catch every station point one, point two, point three, point four, then you catch so many radio transmissions. In some countries, you can only catch stations in the radios that are every double digits, like point 0.2, point 0.4, 98.2, point 0.4, point 0.6. Others, single digits. So they catch different radio waves. It doesn't mean the rest of the radio waves are not there just because your receiver cannot recognize them. This also means that all the energetic transmissions that exist in the world, like in the way that animals perceive an earthquake before it happens, because they're sensitive to this kind of energy vibration. And people who are very close to nature, they perceive more vibrations than people who live in the city because there's less noise around them and less kind of like static and all this kind of stuff. So they can feel the weather coming from the electricity in the air. Yes. Or they can feel things, many animals like barometers. You can tell there's going to be a storm because the barometer drops, the atmospheric pressure. Around us, everywhere, every kind of information exists. And the point is, which transmissions are we capable of receiving and actually interpreting and distinguishing from all the static and all the rest, and which we cannot? So my answer is very simple. The energy world is just part of the spectrum of existence, same as there's different spectrums in radio waves, in different voltages and frequencies in electricity, and so on and so forth. Yeah, like in the United States, you have 110 volts, and in Europe, you have 220 or 240. Yeah, a microphone that needs to be plugged into 110 is not going to work for 220, and vice versa. As a very simple example, or a lamp. Yeah. Another thing you need to understand, I hope I'm not going too far, you tell me if I'm going too far, that a very, very simple example for you to understand this is a vinyl record. You know the old records. Yes, the LP, yeah? So that's a piece of plastic with grooves on it, a physical object. You can hit your head with it, you can tap it, you know. It's just a piece of plastic, vinyl, with grooves on it. Then you put the arm of the turntable. And this arm of the turntable has microsensors. So according to how deep the grooves are, how low it goes, or how high, or how right, or how left, it translates this into a different frequency. Yeah? And this electrical signal it sends to the amplifier. It's minute. Up, down, up, down. This amplifies the signal so it's more easily heard. Yeah? And then it's connected to a speaker. What's a speaker? A speaker is a membrane, either from paper or plastic or some other material. There's a magnet behind it. Yeah? An electromagnet. It receives this impulse and then it makes the membrane move. Yes? Boom, 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 boom. That membrane moves air, and that air is sound that comes to your ears. Right? So the groove in the vinyl is exactly the same thing as the boom of the speaker. It has traveled and transformed, but the piece of plastic is the same as the sound you receive. Now, if I unplug the speaker and there I put a lamp like in the discos, then the same movement of the needle in the grooves will translate to flashes, pop, 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 flashes of the light. The light and the music are the same thing with the grooves in the plastic. They're exactly the same thing. Yes? So you have a sound and it's the same as grooves in a plastic, a form, a material form. Yes? So this is a very simple example to understand how this works. Yes? If instead of putting a light or a speaker, I put a little motor, then every time the sound is transmitted from the vinyl, because that vinyl was cut the other way around. Somebody sang, and that singing was changed into grooves on the vinyl, plastic. So instead of that, I put a little motor and I put a little flag that says fuck you. They'll be going up and down with the sound. Da be da be da be da, fuck you, fuck you, foo, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. The movement of this flag is the same exact thing as the sound, the same exact thing as the flashing light, and the same thing as the piece of plastic. Yes? It is a pattern. The universe is full of patterns that take infinite forms. Energy is only part of the spectrum of the material world.
Excellent. Okay. So what one of the few things I understood from what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, we all irradiate energy and we each perceive it with the example of the radio differently, correct? So far?
We may, yes, many we perceive the same. Generally as human beings, we have some major senses, and generally all of us are within some kind of auditory and visual range. None of us can see infrared, yes, and none of us can see in the dark like many animals very well. Yeah, each animal, each being has a range according to its genetics. Within this range, there are people with very sensitive hearing and people with less sensitive hearing. But there's more than that. For example, if you teach yourself to perceive auras, auras, yeah, you can, some people are more susceptible to perceiving it in a tactile way, like feeling, let's say you try to find your aura, you can feel like a little breeze. Yes, they're more sensitive like that. Some people are more sensitive visually, so they can see a disruption in the field. The same way as when you see like a movie with an airplane and the engines are hot behind the jet. So you can see the air disrupted because of these heat waves. They can perceive it something like this. Some other people are more sensitive in an auditory way, so they can feel it like a buzz or a very perceptible, very light whistle. Yeah, it's the same stimulus that you're perceiving. Yes, it's the same music that's on the vinyl.
Yes.
Some people feel things in their bodies. The point is that many of us have been taught to ignore what we feel
Mhm.
and to only rely on our kind of like five standard senses. We have many sensors. We're full of sensors. We have sensor. We have gag sensors, so we don't eat anything poisonous. We have balance sensors. We have little balls in our ears that if we're upside down, they tell us this. We have all kinds of sensors, but we are more taught to depend and put our focus on the five main ones. So, for example, people that are blind, they develop much more acute hearing and much more acute touch, so they can feel braille language and they can read with their fingers. Yes,
Mhm.
people that lose their hearing, they develop more their eyesight, so they learn to read lips or to feel other things. Yeah, our capabilities are infinite, but it depends where we put our focus on and where we train ourselves on.
Mm. So I have a follow-up question to that. So for people who don't know your work in your workshop, some of the things that we experience, you call them ceremonies, are sort of meditations. And I was very surprised in one of your ceremonies is the first time that I could feel my energy body in a way that it was indisputable. And the way that I felt it, it was like currents of energy, as if it was a river located here, and it felt so nurturing and real. I never had that experience before, and I felt it was triggered by you. Could you speak about that? Because I didn't understand it, and it was just amazing.
Well, to start with, I think that you're coming to my upcoming When the Sun and the Moon Fell in Love workshop,
Yes.
and that is not like a choice OS.
Mm.
We don't have a curriculum, so it's way more experiential. So you will be doing shitloads of these ceremonies. And basically, yes, it's a guided meditation that basically it's guided just to get you into a particular state. And then you're in conversation with your subconscious. So it's like different for every individual. So sometimes we have one of those, like we'll call it a ceremony just for short. We have a ceremony and I guide and I take you people through a story, but people, what they see is individual for them. Yeah.
Yes.
Because what I do is I give many suggestions. I don't tell you what to say. So say, maybe you see this, maybe you see that, maybe you see that, maybe you see something else, maybe you see something else. So basically, I'm helping you to go to a point where you're in deep connection with yourself, and then basically the rest of the job is yours. Yeah. So when you are helped to go into a deep state of consciousness through the practices that we do, what happens is you get rid of your distorting filters in a way.
Mm.
And you get rid of blockages, or not get rid of them, but like soften them and alleviate them so you can overcome them. And then you start perceiving things more powerfully. Yes. So, for example, if it's a radio and your radio has a restriction that it will only go 90.1, 90.3, 90.6, 90.9, 91.1, and so on and so forth. If I help you to soften this barrier of these presets of what channels you can see, like in your TV, you have channels specific. Yeah. Then what happens is that you start being able to perceive 91.837 and find very interesting things there that you were not even aware that they were there.
Correct.
So basically, this is very simply the phenomenon. It's magical, yet it's commonsensical. You know, science, the definition of science is very simple. Science is anything that you can repeat again and again, and the same thing will happen.
Mm.
So, what we do is science. It seems like magic, but it's science because it doesn't ever fail. Of course, you as a person, you can resist a particular ceremony and block yourself out and not push it or not collaborate. Yes? This is a process where it depends on you how deep you're going to go. I take people as deep as they're willing to go and no further. Yeah? It's not a violation of your will. I will call it a facilitation of your will, right? So if you want to connect with your energy, I can make you connect even much more than what you felt,
Wow.
which I will.
Yes. Thank you. And for the listeners who have not attended your workshops, this happens in a completely sober environment, right, Mikis? There's no psychotropics, there's nothing.
No psychotropics, no drugs, nothing. You don't want to go there. You don't go. It's up to you. But if you do want to go, you can discover wonderful things that are inside you and that are around you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, really beautiful and fun, and it's marvelous. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for explaining. So my last question around the energy body, what can you tell us? So there's the chakras, and what about like energy healing? Like when there's energy healing of the chakras or rebalancing, what's that?
Okay. So just to be clear, yeah. Let's say that you're looking at a bridge. There's a bridge over a river. Yeah.
Mhm.
And let's say that you are an engineer. Yeah. You look at this bridge with the engineering eye. You say, okay, so they have supports there and there and there and there. And you will perceive the bridge as an engineering object. If you are a painter, you may perceive, or a photographer, for example, you will perceive this bridge not as an engineering object, but as a visual object. You like the color, you like the material it's made of, do you like that it has plants around? So you're going to perceive the bridge in a very different way than the engineer. If you are a stonemason, you will perceive it from what kind of stone this bridge or what kind of metal this bridge is using, and that's where you're going to perceive it from. It is exactly the same bridge. Do you agree? We'll talk
Yes.
about the same bridge.
Sure.
It's the photo of the same bridge. Yes.
Yes.
But you will be seeing what you're focusing on seeing. Yes. The same thing applies to the energy world. Somebody will enter into a room and they will just feel a weird thing in their stomach. They say, "Oh, I'm not feeling so good about this kind of like what's happening here. Something's weird." Somebody else will may pinpoint where the energy is coming from.
Mm.
Maybe there's like a very grumpy person there, and the people next to them, they don't feel very free. They feel embarrassed to laugh or anything like that. And then, like a wave, this person's grumpiness is going around the room. So you can feel that there is the focus of this energy.
Mm.
Some other person can even identify the exact energy that's happening. Yes.
Mm.
Another person may not identify what this energy does inside them because they're not sensitive enough, but they can identify what it does to the room or to the other people in the room, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it is exactly the same energy that's in the room. But like the engineer, the stonemason, or the metallurgist, or the artist, or so on and so forth, yeah, or the gardener that doesn't even see the bridge, it sees just the flowers around it. Yes, but sees the same picture of the bridge. We all perceive different parts of what we're looking at. Yeah. So you're watching now our beautiful dungeon in the jungle. Yeah.
Yes.
And your mind may be focused on the flickering torches that are there, or they may be focused on the sculpture, or you may be only focused on me and forget what the room is like. The room still contains all these things, and it also contains energy.
Mm.
Yes. Now, the question is, if you don't focus on the energy, you're not going to see the energy. If you don't focus on the sculptures, you're not going to notice the sculptures. Or you may focus on the timbre of my voice and feel that and feel the energy of that, Mara. Or not.
Yes. Wow.
Magic is real because magic is only science yet to be explored. It's nothing more. If I went 500 years ago and did this, then they would call me a magician. I'm not even talking about my smartwatch or my phone or even my fucking thermos. Like shit, this holds things hot. I would be a magician. My glasses, yeah. If I went any time in the past, I went, I don't know, to Henry VIII or something, who anybody over 50, they start having presbyopia and they cannot read, they cannot see. And I just went to the king and say, "May I, my liege lord," and put my glasses on him, and suddenly he can see like that. He would call me a magician. He would give me a castle and lots of money. Yes, because of this thing that these are worth 25 bucks, but you can buy off a kiosk simple ones for $5. You can buy, reading glasses. Yes, or pay 500 bucks for multifocals or something, or 1,000 or whatever. Yes, then more magic. I can look down and I can see close, and I can look far and I can see far as well. Wow, better magic. Yes, Merlin has a better magic than, I don't know, Gandalf. Magic is just science yet to be explored.
Excellent. So, okay, I understand. But what about like the rebalancing of the energy? Why some people need rebalancing? And
Oh,
how
okay,
is
okay.
that done? Is
So,
that even
so I was going
necessary?
there, and I digressed. So the chakras, which are from the
Yes.
kind of like Hindu kind of like part of the world, are seven. It's a random number.
Mm.
There are many centers, energy flows, and there are many centers of energy. But like everything, we categorize things to make it easier for us to understand. Yeah,
Yes.
you could put intermediate chakras, and instead of one, put three, so it's more detailed. Then you have three times seven, 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So if you look at the map of the tube, like in London, you can have the big dots that are the big stations and just see them, or you can see also all the intermediate stations. Yes, the same way as traffic flows, also energy flows. When you have disruptions, which can be physical disruptions like bad health, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or you have emotional disruptions like mental health issues, yes, or if you have any kind of disruption, yeah, what happens is because your body is one thing, the energy is emitted by your body, each part of your body affects the other.
Mm.
Your physical body affects your energy body. Your emotional body affects your physical body and your energy body, and so on and so forth. So basically, anywhere where you have a disruption,
Mm.
for example, the base chakra, the serpent as we call it in spiritualism, the base chakra, that is the center of your like sexuality and of your like base, very animal kind of energy that moves through there. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Your chakra here, yeah, is more connected with the electricity of your brain, right? So it's more affected by that. So if you have like a mental disruption, then the energy here will change the flow, will be disrupted, like blockages, yes,
Mm.
like the pipes in your sewage. You know, if there's a blockage somewhere, then it will start creating more blockage and more disruption, and and so on and so forth. Yeah. So these are not absolute values because everything affects the other. Yes, here is your subconscious. Yeah, because it's close to your hypothalamus, the lower part of your brain that holds all your kind of like animal instincts and like instinctual responses. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So every part of your body, electricity flows from everywhere. Energy flows from everywhere. Yes. Through affects everything, your lymphatic system, your circulatory system, everything. Each one part of your body affects the other. But where there is a bigger magnetism, where it's closer to the source, it's more affected by the electricity of the area, right?
Mm.
Here or here or here, and so on and so forth. So basically, you can heal this both ways. Let's say I have eaten poison and I have like a very big stomachache. The electrical flow, my aura and my electrical flow in the area is disrupted because of inflammation, yes, of the
Mm-hmm.
vessels and all the shit in there, yeah. I can take a pill for the stomach and solve the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
I can have a nice stomach massage to open the knots. I can put acupuncture and needles and kind of like facilitate and reduce the inflammation in junctions of the nervous system. Yeah.
Mhm.
I can do a variety of things. I can put like a warm kind of heater that they put, or a cold compress or a warm compress according to the circumstance. Yeah. So I can affect it chemically, I can affect it like physically with the massage, I can affect it in various ways, but I can also affect it the other way around by liberating and aligning the energy blocks. I can also alleviate the physical or emotional or mental issues. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, if you have a fundamental problem, so if you have like a cancer of the stomach, yeah, and then I give to you energy work and you feel better for a while, it's not going to last because the reason for the blockages still remains. But I can alleviate your symptoms for a while. I
Mhm.
cannot solve it. Usually, generally, the best way to solve issues, wherever they're coming from, is as holistically as possible from every possible side. Yes. So you have an alliance, a collaboration of everything to solve the issue.
Everything is connected, literally.
Yes. Yes. And everything is commonsensical and magical.
Yes.
Because indeed, like we do in shamanism, you can alleviate the pain. You can make a pain disappear from a person. Yes. If this pain is because there's a deep wound, it's going to come back, of course.
Mhm.
But you can reduce the sensation of the pain for a while. But it's very difficult to solve the source. Of course, you can if you give it like shitloads of energy and stimulate the immune system and everything, but it's much easier to clean the wound and help it by putting a little bit of stuff on it and covering it than actually trying
Yeah.
to put huge energy into like resolving an issue that's more easily resolved in an easier way or with a cream or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fascinating. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay.
You don't
We
have to
move
thank me.
on.
That's what I'm here for. I'm the dancing bear. You
Oh,
ask
I love it.
questions, I answer instantly, and
I love
hopefully in
it.
a way that a 5-year old can understand. Does
Yes,
that
and
make
we
sense?
yes, we appreciate how you make things very practical and accessible and how we can use them for our benefit. So it's not just theory talk. I appreciate it.
Good. Compliments are always great. Everybody loves to be appreciated, but more questions, please.
Okay, more questions. So, is there a spiritual realm with spiritual beings defined as a place we cannot see with our eyes? And are there spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, etc., etc.?
Okay, these are two very separate questions, right?
Yes, true.
So ask me
I'm
one
excited.
question at a time. So
Is there
what's
a,
the question?
is there a spiritual realm that we cannot see with our physical eyes?
I have already replied in this. Everything is out there. There's so many things out there. And
Mm.
according to the wavelengths that you can perceive, you only see, as a human being, you only perceive a very small part of the frequencies that are available, a tiny part. So obviously, there are shitloads, not
Mm.
like a spiritual realm, because a spiritual realm is basically an energetic realm. It also has some connection with the rest of the universe. But yes, yes, you perceive a tiny part of the spectrum of what is there. Tiny part, minute. Yeah. And you can train yourself to pursue to be able to perceive more and more and different vibrations and so on. But whatever the fuck you do, you can only focus on some things at time. You have a finite lifetime to explore the world and a finite brain capacity to explore the world. So you got to make choices.
Mm.
Yeah. Let's give it to you in a simpler way for you to understand. Let's take Netflix, for example. You know Netflix,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
the streaming service. So I would say that probably on Netflix there are available hundreds of thousands of movies or documentaries and things like that. Hundreds of thousands. Not only what they're showing now on their program, but what they showed last year on their program and what they're going to be showing next year. Do you agree? Let's say Disney, they have like a huge library of content. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
huge library of content. Or imagine going to the biggest library. It's full of books. How many books are in there? I don't know. Million books it can have. Yeah. There are go on Amazon. How many books exist? It's
Mm.
practically infinite, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how many books can you read, Mara, in your lifetime?
Very limited.
It is not possible for a human being to read one in 100,000 of every book that's ever written. Not one, not 1%, not one in 1,000, not one in 10,000, one in 100,000. You will never read. Yeah. Mostly because you're not interested in most of them.
Mm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's like, I don't know, 100 books on Mozambican cuisine. Like, I know there's thousands of books on French cuisine,
Mm.
right? But let's imagine the cuisine of Angola or of Greenland or something. There's books there as well. The locals read them. Maybe there's not 1,000, maybe there's 100, but there'll be at least 50 in any country. Somebody has written a cooking book.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have enough time in your lifetime to explore the cuisines of every single fucking place and read every book. You have to make choices. And in these choices, you can go deep. For example, you can choose, I'm going to learn everything there is about Portuguese cuisine. This you can manage,
Mm.
but it's going to take you practically a lifetime to learn all the Portuguese recipes that ever exist. So you're never going to learn about the Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a bad thing because life is about choice, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
choose where you direct your focus and when not. So yes, there's infinite stuff out there.
Mm.
Don't worry about
Okay. 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 So what I had this experience, and I just would like to know how do you see it? So it was an experience where a teacher said that I was guided by a spirit guide, and I just got really curious about it. So I'll tell you the experience very quickly. So my sister was pregnant, and suddenly the pregnancy had a complication. She contacted me to speak about the complication, something I never heard before. And she had the risk of having a stillbirth. So it was a very, very serious thing. As soon as I hang up, I open my computer, I open Facebook, and the first post that comes without me looking for it is speaking about this condition in a baby at the same pregnancy time that she had, and how the baby turned out to be fine. So that popped into my radar immediately after the conversation, and I felt I'm being told that the baby's going to be fine. And in fact, the baby eventually, was born and was fine. So I felt it like it was guidance that I didn't initiate it. It was just like dropped. I was given it. What are your thoughts? I loved it. So what are your thoughts?
So I think you've read my book, Three Breaths,
Yes.
and I speak about such a concept in there.
Mm.
But my more simple answer is you have a spirit guide if you want to have a spirit guide. And if you choose to trust a spirit guide and listen to a spirit guide.
Mm.
And if you don't make this choice, then no.
Okay. So it's what belief is a,
Because because let me give you a very simple example. Okay? There is a, there is this joke, an old joke, where a big ship, like the Titanic, is going down, and all the people on the ship they go on the boats, the lifeboats, and they leave the boat because the boat is sinking. And then there's this guy who's very religious, and tell him, "Come with us." He says, "No, no, I'm not coming in this storm, in these flimsy boats, to die in the storm. I have trust in God, and God is gonna save me. So I'm not gonna come with you guys." The boat is sinking more and more and more. Now it's tilted, and half of it is inside the water. The guy has climbed up there, to not be in the water. So suddenly, Coast Guard boats, they come in the storm, big storm. They come in the storm and they go around and say, "Hey, jump in the water, we'll catch you, put you in the boat, take you to safety." He says, "Are you crazy? I'm going to jump in the frozen water. There might be sharks in this big storm and try to catch your boat. What if you don't catch me? What if you sink? I believe in God. God will save me. I'm not coming with you." So they leave. The boat keeps going down. Suddenly, only the tip of the big boat is out and he's hanging, and already the waves are like eating at his feet. You know, helicopter comes on top from the Coast Guard, throws down a rope, say, "Tie yourself to this rope and we'll pull you up in the fucking helicopter." The helicopter is buffeting in the storm. Crazy shit is happening. And he says, "Are you crazy? I believe in God. God will save me. I've been a good man all my life. I've done charity. I've done all of that. God will save me. You think I'm going to tie myself to a fucking rope? Uh, your helicopter cannot even hold itself in the sky." So they go, and the boat goes down, and the guy drowns. And he finds himself in hell, in heaven, wherever you like to be. Up there, wherever. So God is in front of him. He says, "God, I've trusted you, I believed in you all my life, and you let me down, You fucked with me, I trusted you, and look where I am now, I'm dead." And God tells him, "Man, I sent you lifeboats. I sent you Coast Guard boats. I sent you helicopters. What more do you want me to do for you if you're an idiot and you don't want to listen?" So it's the same thing with spirit guides. They are there if you want them to be there. And if you
Mm.
don't want them to be there and you don't want to listen to them or trust them, then they're not there.
Okay, I see. I understand. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so my next question, I would love to move. It's in the same realm. So I hope I'm not repeating myself, but I want to make sure I get the answer from you. So I would love to talk about medicine plants and psychotropics. What do we connect to when we take psychotropics?
Okay. Medicine plants, first of all, is a wider category. You
Okay.
know, aspirin is made out of the the juice of the willow tree, the bark and the whatever. So the willow tree is a medicine plant, and so are many others.
Okay.
The world is full of medicine plants.
Understood.
Practically every medicine that you take, it usually comes from some kind of plant, some kind of organic matter. Then in the labs they isolate them, and they turn it into a pill, but it comes from something, like aspirin. So medicine plants, the universe is full of medicine plants. And what is a medicine plant to you may be poison to a different kind of creature. And what is poison to a different kind of creature may be a medicine plant for you. Yes. Coffee is a medicine plant. It gives you a stimulant. So in this sense, it's a medicine plant. Yes. And the poppy is a medicine plant because it's like opium or heroin. It can put you to sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a medicine plant.
Okay.
Now, psychotropic plants like magic mushrooms, psychotropic mushrooms, or like ayahuasca, peyote. I presume this is the kind of stuff that you talk about.
Correct. Yes.
The world is also full of them because the simple grape is a psychotropic plant because you can make wine or alcohol or anything, or potato, you can make vodka, right? And that's also a psychotropic plant because drink enough vodka, and believe me, it's going to be a very psychotropic experience if you take enough. Coffee is a psychotropic plant. Many things are psychotropic plants. Yes. Chamomile that puts you to sleep is a psychotropic plant.
Mm.
So let's narrow it down to things that allow you to hallucinate and free associate. Yes?
Yes.
So that we have it narrowed down to something more specific. Do you agree? Yes?
Yes.
Is that what you're
Yes.
talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Very
Yes.
good. So imagine the following. Let's say you have a big plot of land.
Mm-hmm.
And in this plot of land, it's very big, there are, it's full of forest and stuff, right? It's a big plot of land. You own, I don't know, 100 hectares, the whole forest.
Mm.
In this forest, you were born there. Your parents and your grandparents, they have a home there, yeah? So it's full of paths. It's the path that goes to the spring, the paths that you take for hunting, the paths that go to your neighbor's house, the path that goes to the little mountain, the path that goes here, the path that goes to the grazing field for your cows, and so on and so forth. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
So these paths are well trodden. If it was a city, they would be asphalted. But there you have stones also for that you don't get mud. You have, what the path is that has been there for many, many years. Wherever you go in this big area, you go from the paths, right? Because that's where you learn to go. You learn to go the paths. Because outside the paths, there might be snakes, it might be uneven ground, you may break a leg, there might be mud and you may dirty your shoes or get stuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you use the paths, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So these paths were made from your great grandparents and other people in the area before them. And there were more paths made by your grandparents and more paths made by your parents. And you in your life have made a few paths as well. You have created a few paths. You said, okay, it would be nice to have like a little, place by the river there, so I'm going to make a path to be able to be going there for this picnic spot, right? So you also make paths. Yes?
Yes.
And your children that will be raised there will be following these paths.
Yes.
Yes. So then a tornado comes. You know these tornadoes, yes? Tornado.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It comes and it takes all the material and all the borders of the paths and spreads them all around the area. All around the area.
Mhm.
Suddenly there are no paths because all this material has been spread and spread. There's stone everywhere. There's like, and the paths have been dissolved, right? Because of this
Mhm.
tornado that took all the stones away and all the sand and the material, the gravel, whatever you have there. Suddenly, this place that you know your whole life is a different thing because you can go to different places and discover different parts of this big forest.
Mm.
Suddenly, you're not restricted by the paths because the paths facilitate you, they're there because they make your passage faster and easier and safer, but they're also limits, they're boundaries. You very rarely contemplate going outside the path unless you have to. But suddenly, plurality.
Mm.
If it's the same here and the same there, you can actually choose to walk somewhere else.
Mm.
But there's more than that. The tornado also has thrown down a few of the trees and the marks. So you don't actually know exactly where the path was. So you can also stray by mistake and find out, I didn't know here there's a patch of red flowers, for example.
Mhm.
This is what happens in your brain temporarily when you take a psychotropic. Your brain has neural paths,
Mm.
and your brain has learned to think and to feel within these paths and to translate things that you receive in your optical nerve, in your auditory nerve, and everywhere through specific paths. And it's very, very difficult to stray from these paths. The only choice you have is within these paths. And you have to push more to go outside these paths. It has to be for a very specific reason that makes you push to go outside these paths and risk that. But the psychotropic is like a tornado.
Mm.
It takes out these limits of these paths, these sidewalks. They disappear, or they become more faint and less restricting. So maybe there's just like a bunch of stone going that way. So why don't I try to go that way, see what's there? So they liberate you, so you have more choices within your forest, which is your brain and your psyche.
Mm.
Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So,
I
next question.
Yeah, I never imagined it. So would you say that when we have access to all those different new paths, are we connecting with what you mentioned in the first podcast with Sebastian to the, how do you call it, universal pool of knowledge?
That's a different question. Let's approach one question at a
Okay.
time. What you are what you are given access to is things that usually you don't have access to, which may include that. But in order to not confuse the people watching us, we must have things clear. The thing is, this phenomenon with psychotropics is temporary. It's temporary. And then your paths reappear because they're there under the rubble. So when the tornado goes, your brain rearranges them, yes? And
Mm.
then you have in addition, a few extra paths that you have found during this experience. However, psychotropics, because, for example, I no longer take any psychotropics. I used to guide people with ayahuasca and studied it for decades, basically. But I haven't taken any psychotropic for, I don't know, 2019. So for the last 7 years, almost 6.5 years. Because I don't need them. Because I can break down the limits of my psyche without needing a facilitation to do it for me. And in a much more ordered way than a tornado that just fucks with everything and can take you anywhere. That's why also you can have with psychotropics like LSD, mushrooms, ayahuasca, blah, blah, blah. You can have a very bad trip as well. And a very confusing trip as well. And sometimes you can find paths to very valuable things as well. But if you learn to break down these limits by yourself, then your new paths can be much more focused to something that you're interested in. The possible paths are infinite, like we said, like the books in the biggest library in the world. So basically, with the ayahuasca, without ayahuasca, there's meditation, guided meditation ceremonies. What I do is we're going to a specific direction, so it's very directional. And then with various techniques, break down your barriers in a particular area. So you can explore a particular area of your psyche that you're interested in at the moment. And then you can create neural synapses, you can create paths that serves you henceforth to be able to visit this place more and more and explore it more, that you're interested in this little nook of your forest, and actually learn something to your benefit from it and discover things that are to your benefit rather than random shit that can be confusing. So this is one of the reasons why initially, by guiding people in ayahuasca ceremonies, I worked for years to develop techniques to help people to drive the ceremony and take it exactly where they want, and to actually get something valuable out of it rather than just a psychotropic experience. And following that, as you know, I went one step further and took the ayahuasca out, create the ayahuasca effects directly from your brain, so stimulate your brain to release DMT, to release all these chemicals and the endorphins and everything and whatever you need, and create the liberation so you can go without having any chemical effect. Yeah. But also to be more directional. Don't give me a tornado everywhere, where the choices are infinite and I don't know where I'm going to end up. What I'm interested in is this area of my psyche. Yes. For example, why do I close down the moments where I'm most loved? For example, that's one part of the forest inside you. So it's okay. What I need is a tornado in there. So on this subject, I want to be able to go and discover everything there is to discover, and not a tornado that blasts everything and can take me anywhere.
Understood.
Next question.
So the universal pool of knowledge, how do we access it? More of it.
Well, okay. These are two questions again. The universal pool of knowledge is very simple. All the knowledge there is to know. All the knowledge there is to know. So, as scientists say, 97% of our DNA is junk DNA. Stuff that we don't even know what the fuck is in there. And only 3% makes sense for our genetic code. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Within this 3%, we differ from every other living being to maybe 1 or 2%, no more than 3. So, for example, between you and the cockroach, the
Yes.
different DNA is like 2.5% between you and the cockroach. And I'm not talking between you and an ape, where the difference is less than 1%. That
Mm.
makes you a human being, right?
Yeah.
So, animals, they also, life forms, who also affect our DNA because there have been experiments, and we know this, yes. If you teach an animal something, that animal will teach it to the other animals, like monkeys or dogs. Then these dogs will teach it to the next generation, the next generation, and it becomes an acquired characteristic. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is an island and there's a fruit that is difficult to catch, yes, then they learn how to catch it. And then every monkey that is born knows how to catch instinctively that thing. In the same way as we've seen in Bambi, the deer is born, and the deer within seconds is walking, where human beings, they cannot walk for a year, right?
Yeah.
So little kittens, they come out of the mother's belly and they crawl and they find the nipple and they hang onto the nipple and they start eating. They know how to do that
Mm-hmm.
because it's inside their genetic makeup. It is a knowledge that has been created through evolution. Yes, do you understand this so far?
Yes, completely.
So, magic is science yet to be fully explored, as we said. What is in the junk DNA, the 97%? Everything. As scientists say, the biomass of the planet continuously recycles. Yeah? You die, the worms eat you, the bird eats the worm, flies, goes shit somewhere, fertilizes a lettuce, somebody eats the lettuce, they have your DNA in them.
Yes.
Scientists say that statistically, each one of us have had several times cells in our bodies that used to belong to every single cockroach and Jesus Christ and the Buddha and anybody else because we constantly recycle those cells. So you have inside you, in your junk DNA, the genetic memory of everything that's ever happened, including what was inside Copernicus, or a bird, or a worm, or Jesus Christ, or anybody. You have inside the memories of beings that have experienced the dinosaur age, or anything you can imagine. This is there,
Mm.
but like hieroglyphs that have not been deciphered, we don't know how to read them. Yes.
Mm.
So now, of the 3% that affects your genetic makeup, and the 3% or less than 3% that were different from flies or worms, that stuff and the whole of the genome is being sequenced. More and more they learn what each one of them mean. In the same way as 1,000 years ago they didn't know how to do this, yes, now there will come a time where they will know all the genomes that actually are evident in our physical and emotional makeup. And then they will start exploring the 97%. And this 97%, they will find out, is continuously enriched. The cockroach has it. Every human has it. In larger or smaller strings, so more or less information according to its ancestry and longevity and so on and so forth, how long this being has been in evolution and so on and so forth. The older is the being, that's why I put cockroaches there. The more information is there, but they have very little access to it, or actually none. But it serves them to be the most successful being in the whole of existence. Even in a nuclear disaster where no life force will exist, scientists say cockroach will survive. They can survive. In Hiroshima, they survived the center, close to the center of the nuclear blast. The ones that weren't burned, they survived. The radiation, most of them didn't give a fuck. So in this 97% of the DNA, there is the memory and the knowledge of everything, even how exactly the world works. The atoms, the subatomic world, the quantum universe, everything. It's all there. The point is, it's gibberish to you. You don't have access to it. However, there can be states of mind that you can gain access to it. And you can actually ask questions and receive answers. And basically, once distorting glasses are removed from your eyes, and obviously you cannot do something, you will never manage to do something that you don't believe you can do. If you see a gorge, and I say, jump over it, you say, you're kidding me, this is like 6 meters, I'm gonna fall, I cannot jump 6 meters. You will never cross this gorge. But if you believe and you start practicing on the side, put one stone here and one stone at 6 meters, and start running and jumping, until you manage to land 6 meters away, yeah. Or if you kind of run from the hill with a big sail and just flow with the wind over the thing with like a parapente, what you call them, you will cross that gorge. But unless you believe that that gorge is passable, you will never pass it. So trust is a very important point at the end, and intention. From then on, in that place, every answer is available. And access to this place is what gives me the capability of answering any question instantly without any hesitation, as you see, and also find a way where it's approachable and it's understandable. My answers are not like an expert giving you complicated words that you gotta pretend that you understand, or complicated concepts. I give you easy concepts. I talk about food, balls, things like that.
Mhm.
Because the people who give you complicated answers are the ones that don't understand them themselves. And they're hiding their ignorance within them. A person that understands something in their cells can very easily explain it to you. But people say, oh, you're stupid or you're not educated enough, so you cannot understand it. So I'm just going to show you what a big authority I am, and you're going to pretend like the emperor's clothes that weren't there. Yeah, you know the story, the emperor's
Mhm.
clothes, where supposedly he had magical clothes, but he was naked. And everybody, because they said that these clothes, if you can't see them, you're an idiot, everybody pretended to see them, say, what beautiful clothes the guy has. And then a kid, the only one that didn't need to pretend, said, look at his balls, they're full of wrinkles. And everybody suddenly could see that indeed they could trust their eyes that the guy was naked. So that's an old story. So, in the same manner, everything is simple. Nature is like modern architecture, less is more, like engineering. The least moving parts you have to make a task, the more reliable it is and better it works. So nature always does the shortest, easiest possible thing with less moving parts as possible. So it's very simple. Now each part of this simple thing can combine to comprise a more complex structure, and those a more complex structure, and so on and so forth. And you may look at the complexity and say, "Oh, wow, this is so complicated, I cannot even perceive it in my brain."
Mhm.
But if you go and look at its components, the easy part, this connects with this and so on, then everything becomes much more clear.
Mhm.
In big stadiums, they have this space frame construction, which basically can be like little triangles of three sticks connecting with each other in every which way, forming polygons, and then forming this big shape, whatever you like. All there is a stick and a three-sided corner, and you have many of those, and you can make any shape you like. Yes, is a corner like this, you put it like this, you put it like this, or you put it like this. Then the next one, you can put it that way or that way or that way, and you can make the most complex structure you can imagine. Actually, this is how 3D animation works. That's how 3D imaging works. It's actually many little triangles or other shapes or polygons that pop, 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 they form and they make every surface. And actually, it's a repeat of one so one side and one joint. And then you got a million of those and a million of the joints, and you make any fucking shape you like.
Excellent. Okay. So part of what I heard is to confirm, so to access the universal pool of knowledge, we go back to choice, believing that it's there and accessible, trusting and practice.
And suspending your
Mm.
disbeliefs, because you do have access to this universal pool of
Mhm.
knowledge. You do have access to that. In the same way as you found about the illness of your niece, yes,
Mhm.
you accessed Google and you found it, yes. But if you hadn't made the choice to look, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have found it. And if you hadn't made the choice to trust it and believe in it and act accordingly and tell your sister blah blah blah, then something else would have happened.
Mm.
But you did receive the knowledge, yes. So the more you the more you suspend your disbelief, the more you trust yourself and your instincts, and you trust it less than your mind and your fears and your doubts, then the more accessible it becomes to you. And there's a very simple principle in all of nature. Everything works. If it doesn't work, it goes extinct.
Mm.
So if it doesn't work, it's not true. Everything is the best possible version of itself. If you're not viewing it this way, you're not seeing with clarity.
Mm.
And the universe will always confirm you
Mm.
because I always pick the best possible scenario and the universe always confirms me.
Mm.
Let me give you a very simple example. Yes.
Yes.
You know that I'm always accessible to my human family, people who've done my workshops, and I got to feel them. And you know from your personal experience as well, although you are a very recent Argonaut, that every time you need anything from me, you call me, you write to me, and I respond, right? Is that
Absolutely,
correct?
yes. Absolutely
Yes.
correct. Yes.
So, and I tell people, guys, look at my fucking calendar. If I'm in a workshop, I'm not going to answer you
Mhm.
because I am single focus guy and I go into a bubble, and for me, the outside world doesn't exist. So I'm not going to answer you. So if I don't answer you, look at my calendar. Yes. And of course, I'm not going to answer you for at least a day before. And of course, I need to rest afterwards. So I'm not going to answer you for another 2 or 3 days after the workshop, right?
Yeah.
So then one time, this guy writes to me during a workshop and really wants to talk to me. I don't answer. A guy that was very grateful to me, I had helped him very much, saved his marriage, his life, all kinds of shit.
Mm.
Then the guy waits a couple of days, then he writes me again. Then he writes me again. And then he writes me an email and says, fuck you, asshole. You are a hypocrite. I should never have believed in you because I'm telling you all my drama in my emails and you don't even like acknowledge me. And I've sent it to also the email of Tiramitica and everybody. You're still not fucking answering me. And fuck you, motherfucking hypocrite.
Ooh.
I ignore this. I finish my workshop. I do my rest. Yeah. Then I write to him and I said, if you had only checked in my calendar, you would know that I was in the middle of a workshop. And I don't think that during your workshop you saw me do anything else or deal with anything else except dedicating myself to you and your fellow Argonauts to give you my best. Yeah.
Mhm.
So now you chose to think the worst about me. Don't you feel really stupid? Right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So if, for example, Sebastian, your husband, is late and you call his phone and he doesn't answer, you can choose to go into a panic and say, oh, he's been in a traffic accident, he's been killed, he's dead, or he's left me, or whatever, yes.
Mhm.
But the simple explanation will mean that his car broke down and his phone ran out of battery. He's trying to figure it out and he does not have a way to reach you.
Yeah.
But according to what you believe will be your reality for the next few hours. Your reality may be one of despair or of anger, asshole, he doesn't care about me, so he doesn't answer, or any other kind of thing that you may imagine. Yes?
Mhm.
Yeah. Or your response could be, oh, my hubby's late, he must be stuck somewhere. So Goodman, he will call me when he can. No news, good news. Now I have good time. I can either take a nice bath and be smelling nice when he comes because it would be nice if he fucked me, or I can make him a nice pie that he likes, whatever the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And enjoy yourself. I have a very different reality than if you believe the worst.
Yeah, understand. Yes. Okay. So, my next question, I would like to move on now to more practical questions. And this is a follow-up on the second podcast where you spoke about parenting. And something you mentioned that was very interesting to me, and I would like to see if you can expand, was around the feminine and masculine energies in the role of parenting. We've heard about it in the context of relationships, but I'm
I
very
think you're
curious.
coming. I think you're coming to an advance about this thing, and I think that I did a whole podcast on this. So it would be nicer if you asked me something different. Yeah, you're gonna be here, and in a
Yes.
month we're gonna go deep into this. I've
Excellent.
already approached it quite a lot in the previous podcast, and there's people that are parents right now that may want to ask the same questions.
Hmm.
But for now, I would rather for you to kind of like uh, don't go backwards to that theme.
Okay.
Yeah,
I take that. Yeah, that's
especially
fine.
with a very general question. If you have something very specific to ask me, I will answer it. I don't have a problem.
Okay, so can I try? Because I had a very specific around that. Should we give that a try or move on
Okay.
to another subject?
No, give it a try. I'm not negating. I just want to make the thing interesting for people.
Okay,
Give it
okay,
a go.
good. Okay, so for example, in that container, qualities that I would love my children, if I have children, to have are qualities that are identified with the masculine. So assertiveness, self-directedness, etc., etc. And those are qualities that I want my children to have, but do I provide them or do I allow the space for the father to provide them? If I want to make sure that they're there.
First of all, it would be nice for you to distinguish between your children if they're boys or if they're girls.
Mm.
Second of all, the children should learn both the masculine and the feminine because none of us is 100% masculine, none of us is 100% feminine. We're all a mixture. Like I'm extremely masculine, but also I'm like maybe 80-20 and 20% feminine. We're all a mixture. So everything is valuable to us. I think that you should let your husband teach the masculine and dedicate yourself in teaching the feminine. And you should teach the feminine both to your boys and to your girls, but to different percentages, yeah,
Mm.
to different intensity. This way, your children will learn that both the masculine and the feminine polarities are available to them, but also they should learn that they should use what's more natural and easier to them and what is more effective for every situation. And
Mm.
that is the most important thing. We're not restricted. Yeah. So if I have a problem and the masculine doesn't work, then I'm going to use the feminine.
Mm.
And if I have a problem where the feminine doesn't work, then I'm going to use the masculine. But you will be more successful in the feminine than me
Mm.
because it comes more natural to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Because also you have the softer voice. Yes. The most pleasant voice. I have the most kind of like thunderous and incisive voice, which like the masculine sits. limits, so it's much easier to boom, you know. You have the most flowy in everything that you are more naturally capable in the feminine than I am.
Mm.
And in everything that I am probably more capable in the masculine than you. It doesn't mean that it's not within your capability. If you dedicate yourself to the masculine like Margaret Thatcher, and
Mm.
that's all you do, then you can become very successful in the masculine. But you won't be happy
Mm.
because you will be forcing your nature.
Mm.
For sure, you can be successful, but do you want to? Is a question.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. It's really beautiful to see how that plays out in the container of parenting. I never thought about it. So yeah, I appreciate you
Yeah.
bringing that up. Okay,
Okay.
next question. Does
Yes.
it serve us to have expectations?
Absolutely not. There is a very nice book by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's called The Four Agreements. It's a bestseller. You can find it very easily. And these are four agreements that we make with ourselves. Yeah.
Mm.
One of them is have no expectations. Expectations will only give you disappointment or resentment.
Mm.
Have no expectations. It's very important because life is full of surprises. First of all, if you have expectations, you limit yourself. Yeah. Another one of the four agreements is be impeccable with the truth, especially to yourself.
Mm.
Mostly we lie to ourselves. Yeah.
Mm.
Another one is don't take anything personally. If somebody harms you, it's not personal. It's either because they're afraid or they need something for you or for their own reasons. Don't take anything personally. And the last one, do the best you can. And if you've done the best you can, chill. It doesn't matter what happens. Whether you succeed or fail, you're good. So very simple, but it's a nice book. I suggest that you read it and have no expectations is one of the four.
Mm. Okay. That was hard for me to receive right now. Okay. Yes. But I understand. I understand. Okay. Next
Does
question.
this refer does this refer to your IVF efforts?
Yes. Yeah.
The worst you can do is have expectations. For example, Sarah, I worked very much with her on this, and first of all, I'm responsible that she had a child because before she would not consider IVF. So no, it's not natural and bullshit like that. And then also, she did not have her own eggs. You have your own eggs. So she could
Mm.
not consider somebody else's eggs.
Mm.
So various choices. And then she did the IVF and it kind of failed in the beginning. Then she did, and then she got pregnant, and then she lost it. And then she did again, and then she had a few adventures on the way, few times like she was bleeding, she had a problem. And they were also overcome. And now the baby is viable. There is no problem anymore. Yes. She
Mhm.
could give birth today and she's fine. Or she could give birth in a month. I mean, the baby's complete. It's safe. She's gonna have a baby. But the biggest danger is your psychological condition. If you're afraid, you will fail. 25% of all pregnancies they fail anyway. So you start with this, and it's nature. It's totally normal.
Yes.
Totally normal. So if you take it as a sign, oh, it's not working, I'm never going to have a baby, blah, blah, you're going to be fucked. Your psychology also changes the hormones that course to your body, your your acidity of your fluids and everything in your body, and all kinds of things, and they can create hostile environments inside of your womb and so on, purely through uh, psychological reasons. Yes.
Mm. Yes.
Fear, anxiety, these are the problems that can make you fail. There's no other problem. If you have the intention, you should say, look, this is going to happen no matter fucking what. I will try and try and try again. If I lose five, I'm going to lose five. Eventually, I will have one. So my expectation is that I will win. I will do whatever I need to win. Your expectation should not be on whether attempt one or experiment three will
Mm.
work or not. Because if you do that, you will be in constant anxiety every time. If Sarah had not found the right attitude, she would have failed. But she
Mm.
did. And when she lost the good one, yes, she was fine. It's okay. Let's keep going again. And now she's fine. Yeah. So expectations are the worst that you can have. Except that if this is your intention, that's the expectation, you will win. And then you'll be fine. But if you make yourself terrorized every time something happens, or freaking out if you lose one, then you're going to fail. Yes, you're going to
Mm.
create an environment inside your body that will be hostile through your nervousness and your anxiety and all this bad energy, and you shall fail. Otherwise, you will win. As long as you control the game, you cannot lose.
Yes. 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 In this case,
If
like
we're
the
playing, if
little.
we're playing Monopoly, yes,
Mhm.
and I lose to you, yeah, then I
Yeah.
say, you know what, it's two out of three, best two out of three. We have to play another two games, and if I lose to you at two out of three, I say, you know what, for me, Monopoly is out of 10, and then out of 100, and then out of 1,000. So I can keep playing until I win. Yes. As long as you
Yeah.
control the end of the game, you cannot lose. This is
Yeah.
one of the magical ways of knowing how to win. And in
Yeah.
life, you must win in everything. In your career, in love, in what you want, you must
Mm.
win because why not? Why play a game you don't want to win? Any game. You want to play any game you want to lose? What the fuck? So if you want to win, you win.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. You mentioned that in the first podcast, and it was great that you want to win on everything. I loved it. Yeah.
Yes. Why
Yeah.
would I want to lose?
Mm. Okay. Next question.
Yes.
Yeah. So my next question is, what are your thoughts? Something that I'm navigating, and I hear many people navigating, is this pushing versus allowing for anything in life. pushing, 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 or just allowing yourself to be guided? I'm normally a pusher, and I'm trying to rebalance to allowing. Is that a good idea? What are your thoughts?
There is, that's like a very, not complex, but a very broad kind of discussion and concept. But basically, you do what works best at the moment.
Mm,
So sometimes you push, sometimes you allow, sometimes you just do nothing. My motto is if in doubt, do nothing.
mm,
Yes. So if you're in doubt whether you should push or not push, then don't. Yeah.
mm,
Only push when you're sure that your pushing will help the situation.
mm,
So basically, another concept of winning is to achieve your objective with expending the minimal of energy and with the minimal of actions. If only I need to push a button to make a wheel spin, to make a machine gather stones and put them up the mountain, yeah, why would I carry all the stones on my back?
mm,
The minimum energy you expend for a task that achieves it, no more, no less, the more efficient and successful you are, and the more energy you have left over to achieve further tasks.
mhm,
So basically, if let's say Sebastian is doing an undesirable action for you, yes,
mhm,
if you have to do 35 fights
mm,
to make him stop, whereas versus if you could say one phrase that would make him stop and never do it again, would you choose the 35 fights or would you choose the one phrase or one action? Or
mhm.
maybe one is not enough, but three. But do you agree that the minimum amount of energy and action that you need to actually achieve the task is the most desirable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's
Yeah.
say that I want something from you, yeah,
Mhm,
and you tell me no, and I tell you yes, but this and that, and blah 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 blah, and then you tell me blah blah blah, no for these reasons, and then I tell you yes for this and this and this and these reasons, and we discuss the damn issue like for weeks, okay?
mm,
Because I want to convince you and you're not convinced. Because I give you all my arguments, you don't like them, you give me yours. Yes.
mm,
But let's say if I can look at you and say, Mara, please.
mm, mm. Done. Yes.
Then maybe I can save 50 fights if I've created the relationship with you that the one word will suffice.
Mm,
So that's about it. That's done because like it's very simple. You push when it's best to push and you allow when it's best to allow. But pushing is a higher energy thing than allowing or doing nothing. So you should use it when necessary, yeah, and not any other time. And
mm,
how much you push. Sometimes some people tell me things and they say, I got it. I agree. Okay, 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 okay. And they keep going at me. You know what I mean? Give me more stuff. Okay, you've won. Okay, it's good. It's enough. So it's also like how much to push. You should push only as much as necessary to tip the situation over to your favor, and no more, because why expend the energy? If you can do great things through chain reactions with expending very little energy, then that's the best way to win, because that means you have more energy spare.
Mm. Yeah, I like that. I like that way of being. Yeah, being also wise in how we use our energy. Yeah.
Yes, but also your energy impacts other people. And so I can be very intense, and you know that. But if I can achieve my purpose without becoming intense, I will not be intense. I will be super chill. But then when I realize that intense energy is needed, I will not hesitate. I will give it. I will blast, pass my point across, and then poop, I shall stop.
Mm.
Why continue if this is all that's enough? So that's how you are effective. And the more effective you are, the more you win. Plus, if you are in an alliance, like with your friends, your family, your husband, then it's not only important how much energy you expend, it's also important how much energy you cause them to expend, because
Mm.
your energy is a total. You are together. So if you expend very little but cost him a lot, then that's also not desirable. Of course, you should look at yourself first, but you should also try to optimize things for both and not spend your allies' energy without concern. Don't throw it to the toilet.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, it's like an orchestra, Mara. Yeah.
Mm.
If you're conducting an orchestra, the orchestra of your life, yeah, and you show towards the violin and they start playing, you don't have like to keep hitting them with a baton or like put a big sign and say assholes play or something like that. Yes, you will pass by there, give the message, then go somewhere else and do just enough. And if you're a good conductor, most of them, if you see, they do very little. They stay mobile. And when the right moment comes, it's dark, and pop, then when it's necessary, they will go a little wild with their batons and give many instructions, and then they will stop. And if they're playing well, his orchestra, why tell them anything? Do nothing. Let the orchestra play by itself. If the world is working around you, let it play. Nothing you need to do. Chill.
Mm.
Do nothing.
Thank you. Okay. I have my last question. Yeah.
Very good. I managed to exhaust you. Thank you very much
No, I have one last
for this
question.
participation. Oh, you have a last question. You told me you
Yes.
finished. Yes.
No, 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 no. I said I have my one last question.
I didn't get that. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay. My last question is around beliefs and how we shape our beliefs, specifically in the following context. So, one of the things we learn with you is that we're constantly, that it serves us to be open to perspective and learning and change our mind and studying and questioning. And my question is, let me find it here so I can read it exactly as I have it. There is so much information out there, and we have our own biases. So, how can we overcome our biases and the overwhelming amount of information to continue learning? I want to learn, but there's so I'm going to make it more, I'm going to give you
Make
an
make
example.
it more specific. Yes.
Yes, yes, I'm going to give you an example. So, for example, recently, you guys sharing a newsletter, you're always sharing content with us, And there was a very specific video that you shared. And when I watched it for the first time, it was very triggering. And I'm gonna send this lady, the one in the video, to hell. I'm not gonna listen to her. But because the video came from you, I knew there was something to learn from it, and there was a silver lining. So because it came from you, I chose to give myself the opportunity, listen to the video again and see what's in it. And that second time, I could understand the meaning of the video and what it was trying to teach me. But if it wouldn't have come from you, I would have missed the lesson. If I would have watched it on my own, my biases would have gotten in the way.
So look, the point is very simple. Does it serve you? This lady, I think, is the lady that sells happiness in a relationship. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The good wife manual
Yeah.
or something like that. Yes? This lady is happy. She's happy. And if you watch more videos of her, that suggests that you subscribe and listen to everything she says. I'm not going to tell you that everything she says I agree 100%. But I'm going to tell you that she has more clarity than 99.9% of people you're going to meet.
Mm.
Because she's happy. Because she makes her husband happy. Because she is in attunement with her body, her sexuality, her desires. Because she doesn't need to fight. Because she knows how to win. And because she knows how to get her own way, not through confrontation, but through the simple principle that the other person is just like me and they just want to be happy and love each other and have a good relationship. So I'm going to give my man as much as I can to make him happy. And I trust that he will want to do the same thing for me and not have to worry to claim things or defend things or like ask for things all the time and so, or demand things.
Mm.
And it works. It actually works. I know it because the stuff that she says, Liz has been practicing for years. And whatever relationship, and I'm not an easy person, that is like so fucking good.
Mm.
And it's like almost impossible to have a fight. And if we do, it will last, 3 minutes. Yeah.
Mm.
And she provides me with everything I could ever want. I adore her. Yes, it gives me intense pleasure to give her pleasure back and make her happy. She doesn't need to claim. If she fights me on something, maybe I'll fight back. Yes. But if she makes me feel that I'm happy and I'm getting everything I could ever want from a woman, it must be something very rare that I would deny her, and for specific reasons it would have to be. Either I cannot, or it's not good for her or for us, or there's a hidden danger there. For no other reason would I not try to do the best more than she could ever want back. So, yes, you say you're more of a pusher rather than a flower.
Mhm.
And of course, this lady pokes you because she is flow itself. She's very feminine, but also like very powerful lady.
Mhm.
That's why I said this video, because I was very impressed with her. And I was impressed with her because I can see the things that she doesn't say as well.
Mm-hmm.
She knows that she always wins. She knows. She doesn't have to say it. She's just telling you how to win. Yes. And how is she telling you how to win? By attacking and poking you directly and telling you it's your fault. Whatever problem you have with your husband, it's your fault because it's a pillar of my belief system
Mm-hmm.
that if it's my fault, I'm powerful. She understands this instinctively. Yes. So she's
Yes.
a lady with great clarity. So she said, if it's your fault, you're powerful. Because if it's not your fault, you depend on the other person doing something or changing for things to be well between you. But if it's your fault, it means that you can do something about it. And if you can do something about it, that means you're powerful, you can control the relationship. And that she understands very well. So, of course, it pokes you. You said it. I'm a pusher, and I'm trying to get out of pushing. So, basically, what you need is people like her to balance you out.
Yeah.
Is it not obvious?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I was
Yes,
open because it was you, the sender. Given that you guys were the
yes,
sender, created that possibility to listen more.
yes. But, watch more of her videos. Subscribe to her channel and watch more. And you'll find
Okay.
some very interesting things. Some not so interesting, but it's worth the time because some very interesting and very intuitive. Very
Mm.
intuitive. So I send you things that I think that are valuable for you to read or to watch. But basically, why not? Watch and reserve judgment for the end. That's the best policy. If you shut down something before it has the opportunity to complete its thought, then you may miss out on some very important things. And that's one part. In general, about your biases, the things you have most resistance to are the things you should give a bigger chance to. Just reading and seeing things that only confirm you do not help you evolve as a person. But actually listening, let's say, to the reasoning of a Nazi or to the reasoning of somebody that's totally opposite to you or to the reasoning of a very religious person or whatever you don't subscribe to is not a danger to you. It's an asset. Because are you sure that you have answers for every single one of this person's arguments? Maybe you have an answer for 90%. And then 10% you may find out actually this kind of like makes sense. And I don't know why it's fact. I believe it's fact because I hate this person, but I'm not quite sure why this particular one is fact. And then you get to learn something. And then you get to explore this particular argument. So that person may be wrong in 90% of what they're saying. But the more you're poked, the more there's a probability that there's something valuable there to you, that because you've brainwashed yourself with your beliefs, you are not considering something, an alternative to a belief that will help you evolve and be more powerful and thus win more.
Wow.
So, yes. Any other questions, my dear Mara?
Great way to end. The more poke, the more to look into. Reserve judgment till the end. Thank you.
So, in the end of this third episode, historic episode of Dungeon Chats, Chats with Magic and Common Sense. Thank you, Mara, for a great podcast and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
want to play RPG in our dungeon? Would you like us to make you a small, medium, or huge custom-made sculpture? Or even your own castle? Contact us at contact@fantasyscaping.com.